didn't understand. So I said, well, I want my fees. He said, sir, fees? What is your fees? So I said, put 5,000 projects done by the students from different parts of the world country together. So in 15 days, we put the 5,000 projects together. I don't know how he did it, but he did. So I said, okay, I'll now come. So I went to NIT student. And when I reached there, of course, after the talk, he said, what next? So I said, 10,000, 20,000. And he went on and on and on. By November, he had completed about 100,000. Then I had to ask him to stop. And then I realized that I had underestimated his potential by 20 times. Isn't it? His potential was 100,000, and I only asked him to put 5,000. I wondered whether I had done a basic mistake in recognizing the potential of young people like me. But that was a wonderful journey after that. He decided not to take a job, join, and lead this Techpedia movement especially. It has now 200,000 engineering projects by 750,000 students from 600 institutions. What it has achieved, I will leave it to Hiranmay to explain. What does it mean for bringing academia and industry together? Why is it critical? Why is it critical to generate new models of highly frugal innovation, highly affordable innovation, and extremely, in the case that he will present, game-changing innovation? So how can students create wonderful innovation in India? I know that you have Facebook and you have many examples where students have brought extraordinary results, but from India we don't hear that result, that kind of story very often. So if we see this, and then the challenge will be, as I suggested to you, that exercise, that at different stages of the value chain, if you find resources that you think will make the life of such students easier and better, then you have done something. So when you are looking at that company law thing, look at it from the point of view of such students, diploma students, engineering students from very ordinary colleges. And how are they trying to do things? What happens when they try to think of an idea which is so transformative, as you will notice in this case? Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. I will just briefly various processes and things that we are doing. So as you can see, the primary objective is to somehow involve the young students across universities to create innovation ecosystems and build processes, build platforms, so that they can leverage their potential much better. And yes, the students are from different institutions, from different sectors, from different skill sets, but probably the common agenda is to create frugal innovation in terms of technology, in terms of management processes, and together. Though it's Techpedia technology, but now we have got also management project slowly, with pharmaceutical sciences and all. So it has presently 2 lakh innovations from students across this country. We are starting it in Peru, starting get it in Kenya, in Norway, and other places. Voluntarily by students, moved together like Wikipedia set of movement. So that's why I call it knowledge network. So the challenge that we wanted to address is, India has a huge potential for involving young scientists and engineers and management graduates for doing big missions like Mars mission and lunar mission. So they are obviously efficient and deliberate engineers. But somehow, still, this country faces serious challenges like this. These are the original pictures taken from Kutch and Bihar and other part of the country, who still have to access the technological potential of the students in this country, innovations. So yes, so in one line I can tell you that there's a research started by Science Education, which says that Indian students in across universities are not literally useless, they are useless. Somehow their fullest potential is not harnessed through various processes and various stages of innovations. So we started in 2010 to understand how really this thesis that we do, the project that we submit, and the kind of project we do, how do we really integrate to a huge value chain. So we had a small experiment. We tried to put together the project in our portal, then tried to show to the industry that we like to get this innovation and implement it in the floor. So one industry told that yes, we like a project, but when we tried to look at the project, it took us a huge time because the repositories are not integrated. And when we tried to locate after 2 months, we found this guy doing his PhD in Bhatti. So he started in Ahmedabad, we located after 1 year. By the time it came back, the innovation to the same city where it was originated, it was 8 years. So literally the challenge was not about the innovation or what's happening or not, but the time factor that we take to literally create something value out of this. So I will just present a case, recent case, how this thesis, you might be thinking that how much the value thesis can do, how much of value this innovation can do in an undergraduate or postgraduate level even. But I'm going a bit down level, I'm talking about a polytechnic case here. So there's a guy, I
Polytechnic means a 3-year diploma course.
after 10th.
And students who go to Polytechnic are not only from very poor background, they can't afford degree college, either admission because of marks or because of the cost. Financially,
huge.
the Polytechnic education is far, far cheaper than the college education.
Yeah. It's a couple of thousand rupees.
And they generally end up being floor shop supervisor or at that level in a factory. So they basically join a supervisory job at manufacturing
sectors in small and medium enterprises. So I try to take one case from Polytechnic because then that could be a good one. So this guy met me first time in 2009 and 10. At that time he was in a Polytechnic final graduate. So he's a 16, 17-year-old boy. So he had a small idea in his mind. So he said 6,000 rupees, $100 in today's context, and tried to create a solar heater. So it's a new kind of solar heater which will create more efficiency. The target was very simple, to get 95 degrees centigrade efficiency in just 3 minutes. So that was not available at that time market. So when he tried to do this project, the guy told, sorry, I can't help you because I don't know much about this thing. So he told that, okay, you just become the guide, I will try to do research and let's together do it. So he drove the guide rather than the guide told him to do the research. So they started it. So after he graduated out this year, he got a good job, pushy job. He went to Pune, working in a solar industry. And somehow he got to know that the technology that the industry is using is substandard than the project that he did. So he felt, I have a good innovation and these guys are working in such a suboptimal level, why can't I start? So at that time, he was a 17-year-old boy. He quit the job in 10 weeks, came down, created a company here. At that time, he didn't know how to start. I know the entire story. I will tell you how he registered the company. And then, within 6 months, he had 25 dealers and 500 installations in the whole state of Gujarat. And at that time, he was just joining to a graduation school. And by the time of 1 year in the graduation school, he had already had 1.5 crore in pocket. So he started with 6,000 rupees, $100 came, and it was already 5 crore valuation. So at that time, he realized that his technology also need changing sort of thing because he's now a graduate school student. So he started doing another stuff. So this was the first story that we could manage at that time. He was a clean entrepreneur at the age of 18. He put back his 1.5 crore money and he started doing all this stuff. So it became an IIM case study in that we faced here. At that time, he was yet to know what is IIM, and then it was his photograph I took from his diploma grades. So what has happened really, what he proposed in Techpedia is probably innovation in colleges and universities need to be taken from one place to another, one time to another time frame, and then to integrate somehow so that create a valuable proposition. And that's all, this one university to another university, and it started. So this guy never knew how to file even a patent, so he came to me one night, 2 years ago, I want to file a provisional patent, I heard something about that. Somehow he helped a lawyer from NASA Innovation Foundation, he sat with him, and then he filed his first provisional patent. Later on, he completed the entire stock. By now, he has 5 PCT applications. 3 of them are published in PCT by now. And this is, by the way, drafted by him because he could not afford paying a lawyer at that time in the beginning, so he tried to document his own innovation. So he spent 5 lakh rupees somehow borrowed from college.
Understand what he has done? Normally, in a solar light or solar surface or solar collector, you only collect up to 20%
Efficiency.
of efficiency. That means whatever heat and light you collect, you convert that only 20% of it into energy. That is the current maximum in Europe. They have gone to 26%.
Yeah.
Maximum. Otherwise, 20 to 23% is the average. What he is trying to do and what he has done is 66%. Now, 26% is the limit of photovoltaic. So he couldn't change photovoltaic. But it's very important to understand. Is there a slide on that? No?
Yes, I have a slide.
Okay, by the
So what this guy did, he spent 5 lakh rupees and he started this product. So what this does is, generally what we do is, while building the innovation ecosystem, we made a policy change in the universities that every guy who is studying in the university has to go to visit a small cottage industry in the vicinity and try to codify their challenge and take as a research project. So when this guy went to a local industry, he found out there are 2 serious issues. Firstly, the efficiency is fixed, so computation is normalized. And second is, whatever the surface you use, the photovoltaic effect is same. The challenge is how do you improve the collecting efficiency part. So these guys have two options. Either you increase your fluid to take them into 150 degrees centigrade of temperature ranging, and that temperature range also they calculated very carefully. They found out that 66% of industrial power consumption can be nullified from electricity and non-green technology if you get a technology which can create heat from 150 to 350 degrees centigrade, which generally solar panels don't do. So their challenge was how to create this much of temperature so that tomorrow if the market comes to to replace those non-organic sort of energy sources, then they can have a lead. So they have a very clear mindset what they're going to do. So they designed a reflector in a different fluidic manner in which they achieved to range up to 350 degrees centigrade. The biggest thing is the technology design was so beautiful that the entire cost was paid back by 1.5x. So in terms of the cost, in terms of the efficiency, this VCT patent was a huge success at that time. And what they did is they applied for an MIT challenge. At that time, he didn't know what is MIT. I told him that this is a good college, apply for this. So he applied for that for his challenge, and this was recently, October 3rd, just a week back. So the MIT asked him to join them. He has got the first prize from the industrial clean technology category because they believe that if tomorrow industry need to compete, they can't compete by cheap levels. They can't compete by the value chain of supply and something because small and medium enterprises have similar value chain of supply and logistics. So they can't really get advantage. But what they can get advantage is the power consumption and the cost in the power consumption side. So this is the category in which they own this award. They're still supposed to there. This is the guy. So this is the guy. This is the story it started. I converted to a diploma project to 1.5 crore company, and how we helped us split to the bootstrap, 5 PCTs, pivoted right in the first year, and then converted the final project to a 20 crore company. So this is the valuation. He don't know what is valuations and all. He recently came to your IIM, some festival was going on here, marketing festival, something. He got a guy, he told, can you evaluate my technology and something. So one investor told that you have a 20 crore valuation in the present market, so you need to get ready. And this guy, what he does now, in last 6 months, he has 50 lakhs of turnover. He is not able to supply the people because you don't have the raw material and a big strategy to make it out. So he has 2 crore of order pending. His efficiency is 66%, his technology is 66%, and conversion is 20%. And the biggest thing is, in photovoltaic, the biggest thing is the land we use for putting these panels. So his technology reduces the land. If in thermal technology, if you 3 meter, it takes 1 square meter. So 1 kind of space is reduced. And one of the biggest things that a guy told me one day that I'm surprised to know one faculty has a patent in my technology, and he don't know I have some patents, and I don't know he has some patents. So he went to his guy to tell, let's bargain because I want to purchase your patent. He want to take it. So it's a scenario that's happening out. A student in undergraduate is trying to negotiate his guy that let's join together our patents and create a product out of it. And this is what I told him. He came to this IIM convention and tried to. And the biggest status of this guy presently is he's yet to clear a paper of his undergraduate because he's not able to manage this thing. So he is struggling for that paper to be cleared in last 2 cycles. So this is one of the cases that I told about. One project of undergraduate student he's yet to complete. And by giving a little bit of handholding that we could do. We didn't have the resource at our end in Techpedia and other places. But somehow he could manage the bootstrapping, and it was a huge case of success. So yes, these are a couple of targets that we have in this portal. We want to promote originality.
Did you mention that he hired his professor?
Oh, sorry, I forgot. This is what happened is, yes, look at this. So at a time, when he was an undergraduate student in the first year, he thought of, his teacher was torturing too much. He was telling that, how this technology will work, you will not get nothing. Why are you torturing me? So when he was, at the time, at a 1.5 crore valuation, he told his professor, how much you get from the college? He told, I'm 25,000 bucks. He told, I will give you 35,000. Can you join me? So let's work together. So that's the way the entire process started. and this was it happening all together to local Gujarati language boys.
So I'm waiting to be hired by one of you.
So this was the thing. So we want to promote originality. That's why we put the portals, all the project together. Then we try to connect them with informal sector innovation. That's very, very crucial. And obviously, how do we do it? We have tried to create an institutionalizing process, and then try to put the challenges as a part of the curriculum. So the universities have changed their policies so that kids like them can take a real life challenge and work in the area they work. And then obviously we're trying to support, as I told, virtual support system for IPR and reward and some of the national awards that we give. So these are the processes that we adopted. So if I summarize what Techpedia is, we give information access quality. Everybody sitting in Kashmir or Kerala can access this portal and get what innovation has been done ahead. So you have a clear access quality. Then you have built around processes around the information linkage. This is the front end of the portal, open access. You can go and look at any sector that you're interested in. And solar, if you go, you can see how many. So if you go down.
These are solar projects.
Yes. So
how many are there? There are
1803
18,803 projects
are there on this portal presently. And these are, I think, 5 to 6% of the entire research in innovation that has been done in the colleges. So any keyword that you can go and search it out. So the idea was very simple in this process that how do you really create a process around these systems and the student really harness. So this was what we have the universities to create the innovation processes. The student go and visit to the local industries to find out challenges and opportunities, and they try to empathize, they try to define, they try to ideate, they try to prototype, they try to test out and then deploy. So one our idea, a big idea was that in this state of Gujarat, if I take one example of the 25 states, we have 1 lakh students. So idea was not an imagination inverted pyramid. If 1 lakh ideas converted to 10,000 prototypes through a mechanical to a support system, and out of that 500, you listen to Sanjay, he was saying that they could create 500 startups in Kerala, obviously Gujarat is having a larger size and larger possibility, that this was the single bottom line that we had in the beginning. And initially, yes, so students come from different colleges. Look, this is IIM Madras, IIM Bombay, and IICT. So even we allow huge collaboration. I started with collaboration. So people from different colleges come together, work virtually on the projects. Yes, some of the informal sector innovators have been also awarded as a distinguished faculty designation. This guy has never been beyond 10 standard.
Mythical fellow.
Mythical fellow. He is also a faculty to the students. We have given them awards so that they can go and teach to these engineers. And one thing was very common. I think Prof. Gupta also mentioned that inverted model of innovation. I will tell you 2 slides how we correct. This guy is trying to create innovation with a logic so that each basket can move off. And this is a class 7 student which NIF has awarded tonight. And look at this thing. This lady is also a PhD design student who we have awarded in 2012. If you look at the logic of these 2 innovations is same. But the children, the child that I show can't design the product if engineers don't fabricate the logic. So our idea was how do you harness those connections, those possibilities by those kids and integrate with engineering students and then to the market. So technological commonness is there, but how do you bring ecosystem vertically and horizontally, both? That is very, very crucial. Yes, one thing that triggered us very much that every college has a vacation time in the summer and winter. So even if you get 2 months of vacation in 1 million of graduate students in India, they get 2 million months every year. What do they do? I don't know. But our idea was, how do you integrate these summer 2 million months to create technological innovation, sociological innovation, economic innovation, whatever you said. So we started a summer school program in 2013. We told them, okay, we'll not tell what is the problem, we'll not tell what is the solution, go and find out the challenges, create a product and create a market for this. So these guys, if you look, this is very familiar in India, okay. So when this guy first went to this Ahmedabad market, he didn't know what is market survey. But he went there with a pen and pencil, later on, we need something of this thing to eliminate child labor. He told, okay, I need something so that, this thing can come out directly, so that I don't need to put a guy here to pick it up. And the other side. So they created a small, this was a 350 rupees. At that time, he made in 350 rupees retrofitting kit. He made and put in the machine. And in Ahmedabad, there are 10,000 such lorry owners, So he made 350 rupees and 10,000, this guy told, okay, this is my small erection. So we are trying to create solutions which can also have economical impact and also on social impact, so they don't engage child laborers and all these things. Yes, we have an online portal where we take, I think, 30 to 40 students in summer school, but then we link them to around 30,000 guys outside. So we also try to focus on the in-situ component. So some people work here, some people sit in their home and then comment in the post. Okay, yes, we have an idea, we also want to contribute, and we try to pull common technologies together. We give this out, Dr. Mashik will give it, it's RGMCR, every year in March we give it. This time it is in Rashtrapati Bhavan, we'll give this innovation award. These are the students across universities, we try to give 20-25 innovation awards. And yes, so the game doesn't stop here. So what I have created a process is, after they get award, we try to link them across various processes, various systems, various platforms that they can go and excel. So these are the guys of 2013 winner. They got an Innovation Award from Viewpoint. 18 hours starting power of Srini, you might be knowing that. Some of your guys are partners on the project. And yes, some of us winners are in Rashtrapati level for the philosophy program. Some of them are the child minister to try to learn and understand how this ecosystem can work. And this minister is trying to understand, how do we really put more and more such energetic guys. Recently, 3M and CII, 3M is a company which really talks about hardcore innovation. When CII, they did an innovation award, 60% of those guys are from this, all from this innovation award that we gave in 2012 and 13. So this is what we are trying to do now, because we found out there's a serious issue in this entire evolution of work. We created a portal for giving access. We created a summer school program. We created supply systems and linkage systems so that the students can go to an industry, locate a challenge, work around for 2-3 years and build a company, hardcore. But then we found out the biggest missing link in this process is there are people who can fund them 10 crore, but there are no much of people who can give them 10,000 rupees. So how do you support them in the very, very early stage of prototype development? So we created a concept at SST called Social Innovation Fund. So what it does is, get the ideas and go through the SIF and try to sometimes crowdfund, sometimes pull resources and some contribution from our resources, and then, try to create a support system for them. So it's taking off. We'll be definitely needing help for getting it out. We have supported a couple of projects. And we tried pilot one in the beginning, that how could these innovation can be caught. This is a small project, one girl. There's a blind school nearby to IIM, many of you will be knowing, just in front of the new campus. Okay. So this girl in final year has a small technology innovation. See, the idea was the blind, the different dog guys. The different dog guys have a different way of communication, and the general person can't translate that literally. So there is a mobile application. You give your signal, it translates that and communicate to it.
Sign to text.
Yes.
Sign to text. So you make
hand moves,
hand signals, and the mobile is looking at, camera is looking at it and converts into text.
And also it converts to text to speech, so that you listen to what the guy is talking about. Small application, but then that creates a huge impact. So we tried it in a small crowdfunding portal. C demanded 100,000 to make a robust iPhone and mobile application, and in 65 days, in prospective contribution, they could get it 150,000. So really, this social innovation model is working. So the last slide that I wanted to share with is, all these processes are, I told you a polytechnic case and others, these are small fragment of the huge community. We want to really create access equality by giving facility to their doorstep. So rather than going to a very, very limited ex situ mode of incubation and support system, we are trying to propose an incubation system, because most of the students in Indian colleges are from lower middle class. They can't offer a 4-year graduation and 1-year incubation and a 6-month acceleration. That's not going to work out. So somehow we need to, as I started, they are not useless, they are useless. There's a huge amount of time in the college time. You can integrate good amount of facilities and processes that they can benefit. So we want to create an access equality to an online incubator. We want to increase more and more collaboration on cloud, on technology. We want to reduce the transaction cost so that they don't need to go to incubator, seat and pay something else. Also, we want to create a demand-based system, not a supply-based system. Why demand-based? Because more and more students will demand what you want to do, what kind of support we need, and then make the facility. And then make things scalable, because as Sanjay was telling yesterday that by creating, the need is to create 1 million jobs in a month, which is not going to happen in 66 incubators in this country. We don't have on an average 6 incubators in the floor. So we need to scale up, and that's possible through an online processes, and also to target, as I told that, to create that job deficit supplement somehow, to create that much of jobs through a huge amount of student entrepreneurs right in the colleges. So sometimes people say it's a plan, that's why we go to management colleges and try to do something else. We have seen that people learning IT, learning management, learning business plan, and doing their startups right in the undergraduate level. So this model has really worked out. So right from creating a portal, creating ecosystem, creating processes, and then social ventures fund, and this is what we are trying to work out now to create this online sanctuary. We don't call it incubation model, we call it sanctuary, because this is random. I just showed this guy, the guy who is going to hire his teacher to work for his company. Obviously, this is not a structured process. So this is very random and chaotic, and we want to promote that as much as possible. This is what I want to share with you. Thank you.
Any comments, questions, criticism, any ideas? Yeah.
The first story that you spoke about, the solar invention,
Yeah.
20% to 66%. How many such success stories are there, and how do we increase the rate of such success stories?
So, yes, this one you are talking about. So, frankly speaking, because you have a small team and little bit of resources, we are able to document cases. So last year 14,000 teams worked under this process in university. Obviously 5 to 6% students are doing genuine work. But the real challenge is to tap them because most of them are not
Those
digitally
of you
connected.
who are interested in doing case studies of other such cases,
Yes.
we will appreciate. So we need people to write and document and talk and interview and put together these stories because we don't have manpower. But there are many stories.
Yes, but most of, I think many of them are in ICT space as we saw, but yes, there are multiple technologies. So getting 4 or 5 of such prizes every month is not a big deal. But only thing is, how do you put zeros around those 4 and 5? That's the real challenge. Probably they might be happening out in their colleges, but nobody is giving patronage. This guy was in Ahmedabad and we're in Ahmedabad. So if you could trace that, he could meet me, we could meet us, a lot of mentors and do it. But there might be many guys 500 kilometers down the village area and remote places. So how do you take facility to that doorstep? That is the real challenge. So that's what we're working for.
Anybody else?
And there's so many startups or students, so how do you support them or how do you, I don't know. So yesterday told us that it's so hard to find people, so experienced entrepreneurs, because you need them to run these incubators.
Yeah.
And they have usually their own business going. So how do you support as much as you can?
Large number of cases. So one of the intervention in that angle is the social innovation fund that we are trying to create it very soon. And the biggest thing around this fund is it is hugely community contributed. I will show you this one. This is not an individually contributed fund, and this fund is not contributed by people who want to get extraction from the value. They want to contribute the little goodwill that yes, this idea go to next level. Yes. So one of our key target is to support at least 1,000 such innovation in the primitive level. That's what Professor Gupta has written in many of these cases that this country has been a National Inclusive Innovation Fund which supports in the size of 2 to 3 crore or at least of that size, but there is no fund exclusively supporting the initial period of couple of thousands. So one of the things that we are literally lobbying in policy level also that yes, universities have their internal funds, government has their internal funds, so somehow to bring down those support system in the one. And second is this crowdfunding we are trying into the process, both in hard technology and non-IP based technology. And sometimes we are trying to bootstrap literally. I could not take some cases. Sometimes I have seen one project bootstrap the other and try to create a goodwill around that. And like Sanjay told, I was talking after this video conference went off, when they started in Startup Village, one of the biggest strength they had is to bootstrap between each startup. Because initially when you start an ecosystem, you literally don't have the trust from the external side. So at that time, if you can bootstrap between the internal startups that I want to create value for you, you create value for me, I think that gives you a lifeline of around 1 to 1.5 years. So during that 1 to 1.5 years, we try to create an external support in this process.
My question is, how feasible is it for all of these, or let's say some of these startups to scale up in a short span of time? Scaling up is a big problem as I see in most of these cases. So how do you ensure that a lot of these are going to get sidelined?
Yes, the mortality rate is too high. So that was what we were also thinking in the process is we recently started drafting a small policy for the universities also that every college should have a support system. They call it a student startup support system. So rather having an incubation separate, to integrate that in the psychology, in the ecology, in the processes of the college itself, so that the guys don't feel that they are passed out and they are struggling out. So recently a couple of states like Andhra Pradesh has come out with policy to allow you gap years. So what does it gap year means is if you want to really go to take the product ahead and you want to spend 1 year, that will not be considered as a lose year, that will be considered as an investment year. So there are some academic liberalization happening around universities now, mainly in decentralized universities, the state universities. Obviously IITs are thinking in that, but decentralized universities are trying. And what we want to do in this process is, through this portal, we also are trying to create a national mentoring network.
No, but I think what he's asking, and we have discussed that, but you might like to stress
Yeah.
that we're also trying to create a fabricator's network,
Yeah.
a manufacturer's, contract manufacturing network.
Yes.
So when we got the windmill from Northeast, Mehtar Hussain and Mushtaq Ahmed, 5,000 rupees windmill, We got 30 of them made with the new design of 65,000 each from 5,000. And we had to install them in Pipavav, Amreli region. For the salt workers, we needed a manufacturer.
Yeah.
Those two people in Assam could give their technical know-how, but they didn't know how to manufacture. And they made bamboo, they didn't make iron. They don't know nothing about iron welding, iron scaffolding, how much of thrust will be for the wind, 35 square kilometers, that is 35 kilometers per hour, huge wind in this region. Assam doesn't have that strong wind. So all those problems were there. This fabricator, Chaudhary Fabricators in Ahmedabad, he agreed to invest in it. He has other business going on. He said, I don't want to make money out of it. I want to have fun. Let me see how it works out. So his son, he will give a site engineer to repair them. There will be a lot of problems after installation. So what you're saying is very true. The startups in the hard technologies may not be able to afford to set up a manufacturing system in the first 4 or 5 years. So at least up to 5 years, they must have a good bill of materials. They must know how many of them are standard component versus non-standard components. The standard components you take from the shelf. Non-standard component only you need to fabricate. I can tell you, one of the innovators in Jaipur, biomass gasifier, Rasim Daya, he needed 3 cylindrical pipes for biogas to pass through. And he will fabricate all the 3. And we said, look, go to the market, find out the pipes. Supposing something is 1 inch more or less than that in diameter, will it affect the efficiency? If it doesn't, why don't you use standard component rather than fabricating everything? So the time taken to finish a product or order goes down drastically if proportion of standard component can be increased in the bill of materials. Now many entrepreneurs, startups don't realize that. They don't think that is possible. They think what they have done is everything they must do themselves.
Yes.
And I'm telling you smart ones, not just the less ignorant ones.
Yeah.
Smart ones also try to make everything themselves, every single component, except chips and so on. So we are trying that this was the second point. Standard component versus generalized versus special component, contract manufacturing, quality control. Fourth, which is most difficult problem in our ecosystem, is after sales service. Majority of the innovators and entrepreneurs don't believe in after sales service. तुम्हें problem है तो you come to me. No, that is not a model to work. So therefore they don't scale up. Because then they can only scale up within the region of 10 kilometers, 50 miles, 100 miles. From there people can come and visit him. But they can't come from 500 miles or 5,000 miles. And they can't appoint a sales engineer there. Now, to create a network of sales service engineers or an ecosystem where there will be service firms who will service equipments, innovative equipments of different startups, that is the step in future. We have not reached there,
Yeah.
but we visualize that.
I think what we are trying to work out is there are angel investors, but we are trying to create IP angels, we are trying to create fire angels.
Yes.
We are trying to create these concepts in this entire process because only angel is not something about money. You can give your floor, you can give your 2 hours a week, you can give your mentoring. So these are the, I think, couple of people who are interested in working out those areas, how to create a fire angel process,
That's where the
how to
real
create an IP
innovation-
angel process. So I think that's what we are.
Because what your question is it's at heart of the problem. The question is at the heart of the problem or the challenge that we are facing. Because in every single case we have this problem, that to put together everything that is required, after sales service, warranty, the spares that you need to give with it, every major supplier will give you few extra balls with a spectrophotometer, will give you few extra lenses. There are few things that may go off, go wrong after a while. You are told that keep these spares handy because these are the parts which will go on. There is nothing wrong with the machine, just replace them and your system will be on. To be able to reach that point, to be able to create manual, recently 3 equipments, you're not going to be here. 3 equipments which have been sent to Kenya. First thing we had to do was to create a video manual, which you can see on phone, MP4 file or MP3 file, that a person who is using a motorcycle-based flying machine, he should know where the problem will come and which part to knock here, there, tighten, bolt, this and so that he can do or she can do himself or herself. So these are the questions that we are facing. It's a complex challenge and each case requires customized support for manual, for spares, for after-sales surveys, all of that. For a small entrepreneur to be able to do that countrywide and then globally, will require some support. So what he's saying is right, that we need people like you are a company secretary. Now, if you provide some support for 2 hours a week, somebody who is into logistics, 2 hours a week support for logistics. Okay, let me work out, how can I do this? How can I help you to assemble? For example, the bulk. In many technologies, innovators supply the whole thing at one go, which increases the size. The cost of transportation increases. If you just disassemble them in 3 or 4 modules, pack them over one another, the volume goes down, even if the weight remains constant. The space occupied in a truck goes down. When the space occupied in the truck goes down, truck doesn't charge only by weight. They also look at the space because they can carry more load. All these small issues are very important, and people need to apply their mind to advise, suggest which part should be modularized, how do you assemble, how do you disassemble, all that, and then give a small clutch kind of nut and bolt kind of system that if you fix 6 nut and bolt, green color here, yellow color here, red here, your machine is ready, something like that. Color coding of the system, because most of the people who are buying also may be literate, farmers. So they may not understand it. I mean, how many of you can read a television drawing that is coming with a television? I mean, those who are not electronics engineer, for us it's just a drawing, we don't understand that. Same thing is with the farmer, they won't understand the geometrical design. So there are real problems here. And I must admit, we should admit that we don't have all the answers at this point.
True.
We don't have the answers. But we need to find the answers. That we know. That is, we need to find the answers, and some of these people who are scaled up will possibly become the leader in future to help us educate others. So they will become like academies.
Yeah.
So this fellow,
Like Sanjay did in Startup Village,
yeah,
by putting his own company fast in market, getting money and then starting 500 more. I think building institutions around individuals is going to work out.
person must incubate 100, 200 other. So the incubators around the industry. And enterprise-led incubation rather than academia-led. Academia model did not work in this country. Unfortunately, we know that. It didn't work. Unlike in the West. In our country, it does not. Hardly 50, 60 companies they have come out of that. One, professors are very conservative, they ask too many questions. And they get on the nerves of the entrepreneur. They don't let him commit mistake. They become too cautious. Whereas the trick is to make mistakes and learn from them. So probably we need to keep professors off the back sometimes and let the entrepreneurs go on their own, which entrepreneurs will know that. So they will let others, entrepreneurs, go on their own. They have gone through that stage.
I think to add to that, we have shared a Google link to some documents, startup policy and all. If some of you can work out what kind of policy picking needs to be done in the universities to support these guys. Because there are a couple of states universities who have tried some experiments. But then what suits really best? That's a couple of challenges that we need to look at.
We'll close this part with any other question. Thank you so much.